There has never been a better time to upgrade your combine, tractor, and grain cart tires. Save up to $300 per tire when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag radial tires this fall. Visit firestoneag.com for more details. And now it's time to discuss the markets. Joining us this week is Dan Hueber of the Hueber Report. And Dan, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
This week, we saw the market anticipating the October World Agricultural Supply and Demand estimates. Dan, we'll get into those details in a moment.
Very good.
But overall, what's the sentiment here in the grain trade in this harvest season of 2023?
Well, I mean, certainly markets have been dragging recently, I guess the best you could say. Beans have been under some a little bit of additional pressure, but you know, I think we're anticipating a good harvest overall. I mean, certainly not record numbers, but you know, ample supplies domestically, worldwide, so that's just allowed prices to seasonally drift down here into harvest time. And you know, the grains, especially corn and wheat, have kind of stabilized, but you know, up until this week, soybeans have been still on the defensive. But you know, maybe some of that's going to change a little bit after the reports here today.
Well, let's get into those details. You mentioned beans might be the bright spot of this most recent WASDE report. Dan, what was it that stands out to you as maybe a green shoot in that market?
Realistically, the domestic numbers were a little bit friendly. The carryout domestically was left unchanged at 220 million bushels. Trade was looking for something around 230 million, so it's mildly supportive there. But the biggest change came in the world ending stocks, where they reduced the projected carryout around 4 million metric tons. So, you know, it doesn't change it from bearish to bullish by any stretch of the imagination, but anytime you have ending stocks reduced, theoretically that means prices should stabilize or maybe even move higher. So, you know, puts a little brighter picture on the soybeans, at least for the short term here.
For the short term, Dan, because one of the things I noticed was the expectation that Brazil's soybean production is going to increase again this next year. Does that jive with what you're hearing?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and again, they're really, of course, just getting planting on the soybeans here at this point in time. Weather has been, you know, a little bit too wet in the south, maybe not quite enough moisture in the central parts of the region. But I mean, planting has started at a pretty average pace, but they have all the economic incentive in the world. I mean, the real remains depressed against the dollar, which gives them all the more incentive to put more acreage out there. It looks like they'll probably do it even at the expense of corn this year. So it's, you know, beans are what they do best, and that's what they're going to try to do this year.
So for growers who are running those combines right now, maybe bean yields are coming in a little better than expected. They've got some unpriced bushels. Dan, what do you do?
Well, you know, I would probably be a little bit patient at this point. I think we have room for a rebound, but I would stop short of saying a major rally. Look at the carry in the market. There's a fair amount of carry after the July. Don't leave that at risk. I mean, I think if you're going to sell, you take advantage of the carry, but also recognize that as time goes on, we'll eliminate that carry. So that's that 50, 60 cents that's out there is what you're at risk for at this point.
It's there for the taking right now.
It is. Yes,
Dan,
it is.
over on the corn side, we did see some small changes in the WASDE report. Anything that the market's going to take exceptional notice to?
Not exceptional. I mean, everything leaned just a little bit to the friendly side. Yield numbers were a touch under expectation, as was both the production number and the carryout domestically and on the global standpoint. So, you know, it probably gives us a reason to think we could lift prices away from where they are right now in this kind of harvest base. But again, for a long, extended rally, you know, that's probably not in the cards right now.
Exports. Dan, are we getting any indication that export business is coming back to the U.S.?
Well, other than standard business, no. I mean, yes, you want to see export business this time of year. I mean, you need to kind of make up for you know, what the slack will be as you get out in the later months, and particularly when you look at the beans, when you start getting in the South American harvest here post first of the year. But yeah, we have some business, but boy, it's certainly nothing that's going to set any records. And, you know, competitively, we're just not there on the world market right now.
Dan, we have seen oil prices come up a little bit. Is that bullish for ethanol demand?
Well, you know, that maybe if there is a story in the corn market, it is because of energies, you know, so that probably continues. And they've had great margins, so they're going to continue to put out what they can. Oil prices, though, as a whole, you know, in the last couple of weeks, you know, granted the situation in the Mideast has given us a little psychological boost, a little risk factor boost in there, but I think that overall that's subsiding. And there's still a lot of concern about the global economy. Are we going to really start slowing down? Which, of course, if that happens, not good for oil demand.
It isn't. We'll have a lot more to discuss when we come back with more with Dan Hueber.